Hello, everybody, and welcome in live to the 36th edition of the Bleeding Burnt Orange Show here on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. We are here on the SEC channel, which is brand new. Hit that like button and subscribe, and the Texas Mark Rogers channel. So hit that like button and subscribe over there as well. Please do that, guys. It really helps out the show. A couple notes. Starting next week, we will be going to Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. From here on out, Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Please, guys, be there for that. We'll also be changing up the show name. That is TBD. It has not been decided yet. I'm down to a couple. If I had more people in here, I'd ask your opinion. I do not at this point, and that's what we're trying to do, guys. We're trying to grow this brand, grow this channel, so please do that. Hit that like button, subscribe. Also, starting in April, Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, here on this channel, here on the Texas channel, Mark will be joining us. Mark will join us Mondays in April, starting out sometime in April. So please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Like I said, we're going to be moving till Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. So please join me, Matthew Miller, your host. I will be here from now on every Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and it really helps out the channel if you hit that like button and subscribe. Before we get into it, guys, go to ticketsmarter.com, type in code BIG for $10 off a purchase of at least $100 or more, and type in code BIG20 for $20 off a purchase of $300 or more. It really helps out the channel. I really appreciate that you guys do that. It helps out the channel. It helps out your wallet. Why not do it? Go to ticketsmarter.com, type in code BIG for $10 off a purchase of $100 or more, and type in code BIG20 for $20 off a purchase of $300 or more. I really appreciate that, guys. Hit that like button and subscribe, and let's jump into things. Before we jump into the spring preview, Arch Manning opts out. Oh my God, the world is ending. It is burning. It is over. No, it's not. This has been a gigantic overreaction, guys. A gigantic overreaction. Arch Manning has yet to take an NIL deal where he has pocketed any money. He took an NIL deal with Panini, sold one of his cards, I think his first card ever with Panini. And guess what he did with the money? He gave it away. This whole thing by Arch Manning, guys, has been just like the Mannings. It has been classy. It has been well thought out. It has been educated, and there's always been a plan with it. The plan for him was always going to be sit out a year or two, and everyone was freaking out saying he would not be on the roster up until this point. Guess what he is, and guess what he's going to be on the roster, and guess what? Next year he's going to start. He will start at Texas next year. I can guarantee that. On my life, Arch Manning will be the starter next year at the University of Texas. And the plan going forward that has been laid out by his family and clearly by Texas people has been no NIL till you start. That has been the plan for his family, and that's going to continue to be the plan. I have no issue with this. I think what they wanted to do was get him out of the spotlight. Now, could they have messed this up and put him in the spotlight more? Possibly. So this is how I look at it, guys. So if Arch Manning opts into the game, there's no attention to this right now. But when the game comes out and there is attention brought to it, because there would be, something like this would happen. Quinn Ewers would get hurt. Arch Manning comes in. They win the national championship. People put pictures up on Twitter, Instagram. Ha, he should start. Da, 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 da. Arch Manning transfer portal, because that can happen in this game too. They put that up, try to sell it as real news. Oh my God, he's actually in the transfer portal. Or they just put it up like, told you he's going to transfer as a joke type thing. Now, would that have been the same amount of outcry and attention as this would have brought? I don't know. There's no way to answer this. I guess the way to answer would be he opts back into the game, and then we'll see what happens then. So is it the type of situation where you take a week and a half of heat? Because that's what I think it's going to end up being, is like a week and a half of heat of, oh my God, he's not in the game, and then you don't hear anything about it? Or is it one of those things where you would have taken no heat at all and it wouldn't have been a big outcry on social media, and it's just a miscalculation by the Mannings? I think that's the only way to actually think this through. If you're saying Arch Manning's selfish or Arch Manning needs them or wants more money, that's just not the case. It's not the case. The Mannings are worth, between the whole family, if you added it up, over $500 million. They don't need the money. They've gone about this the right way since the beginning. I believe Arch Manning has 3 tweets on Twitter. One of them committing to the University of Texas. One of them giving away that Panini card for charity. And then I think there was like, "Hey, I'm on Twitter now." Those are his 3 tweets. So if you think this guy wants the spotlight on him, he doesn't. I really believe this is one, he doesn't want any NIL money or attention at all to him. And then number two, I think they just honestly, this is a miscue by the miscue by the Mannings. Like I said, I don't know what the outcome would have been if he opts in the game and what the political storm or the presence behind that would have been in like July or August. We'll never know that now. But I think this might have just been a PR mishap by the Mannings, which they rarely do. I think this might have been the first time in my lifetime they've had a PR mishap. So they were batting pretty close to 1,000, if not 1,000, and this is the first bad one. In my opinion, it's not even that bad. And people are gonna forget this. If this guy comes in and plays very well, no one's gonna care, and he'll be on the game next year because he'll be the starting quarterback, and at that point, he'll be allowed to take NIL money. That was always the deal with his family. And I think he's going to play this year, guys. I don't think he's going to start. I think that's an asinine thing to say. I think Quinn Ewers does have to improve on some things, but do I think he starts? No. Do I think Quinn Ewers, with his reputation of being injured a couple games, I think Arch Manning probably plays 1 or 2 games this year, like through first quarter through fourth quarter. So I think it's a real possibility. I think he's ready. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that he'll be better than Malik Murphy was last year. Malik Murphy struggled quite a bit. Going to be rooting for Malik at Duke, but he's just not as good as Arch Manning, in my opinion. But that's my opinion on the whole Arch Manning fiasco, bonanza, whatever you want to call it. More importantly, it is the spring, and I believe Texas begins spring practice in about a week and a half. So things are popping off. We're going to just jump in here, guys. Losses from last year. This team loses a lot, guys, and a lot of really good players. There are 4 Longhorns right now ranked in the top 50 in the NFL draft, and a Christian Jones, with his performance at the Combine and his performance at the Senior Bowl, has really risen up, guys. Like, he's a top 75. So if you just want to extend it, 5 Longhorns in the top 75 players and on most people's boards. These are the guys we lose. Christian Jones, right tackle. Xavier Worthy, A.D. Mitchell, wide receivers, along with Jordan Whittington. Jatavian Sanders at the tight end position. Byron Murphy and Tavondre Sweat, the best defensive tackle duo in the country, are gone. Jalen Ford at linebacker is gone as well. So I think Ryan Watts, too, at the cornerback position, forgot to mention him. He had a fantastic combine workout, ran a lot faster in the 4.5s. I think he ran a 4.5, 4.40, which is way faster than most people thought. Like, if he wants to be a cornerback, he might be able to now. I think he'd be a fantastic safety, and I think that's why he left Texas. I think Texas told him, hey, transition to safety. He's like, okay, I'll just go to the NFL because they're going to put me there anyways, and I'll make more money. And he is. He'll probably be drafted as a 4th or 5th round pick now with the times he put up at the combine. So losing Ryan Watts hurts as well. And I think there's a potential, guys. There's a real potential that 3 Longhorns are drafted in the first round. That has not happened ever at the University of Texas, I believe. I know we've had 2 first-round picks multiple times. Actually, it happened 6 years in a row from 2001 to 2007 at the University of Texas, having multiple first-round picks. But those were only 2 first-round picks each year. We have yet to have 3 first-round picks, so that'd be new territory for Texas. And if you look at that era of Texas football, 2001 to 2007 was a pretty damn good era. So if Texas is going to get back to that, where they're having multiple guys drafted in the first round every year, you're going to see the wins on the field. Right now, Byron Murphy's going to be the first Longhorn off the board. He'll probably be the first defensive tackle off the board. It's probably either him or Newton from Illinois. I think Tavondre Sweat is probably going to be a middle second round pick. And then I think A.D. Mitchell is the other guy that I'm confident is going in the first round. I think A.D. Mitchell and Byron Murphy will be first round picks. I think the guys that you could see sneak into the first round are Xavier Worthy and Tavondre Sweat. I think Worthy, with his timing, everyone is predicting to the Chiefs. I think Patrick Mahomes tweeting about that isn't a coincidence, guys. I really do believe that is the type of wide receiver he likes. The league is dumb if they allow Xavier Worthy to get to the Chiefs, because let me tell you right now, Xavier Worthy is a better route running Tyreek Hill. He's not as fast. Like, straight line speed, I would take Tyreek Hill in a race. I don't think Tyreek Hill ever had a laser timed official 40-yard dash, if I'm mistaken. And I test, I think Tyreek Hill's faster than Xavier Worthy, but Xavier Worthy has a better route tree. He does. He runs better routes than Tyreek Hill. And if they allow Patrick Mahomes to get his hands on that, along with Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, the league is going to be in trouble. So I think one of those two guys does sneak in the first, and I think Texas has three guys taken in the first round. I think two of them are going to be Byron Murphy and A.D. Mitchell, and then it's going to be between Sweat and Xavier Worthy for the other one. So a lot of losses. Let's talk about additions to the roster. I'm not going to name everyone. I'm just going to name guys that I think will make an impact because there's way too many names to go over. So additions just through recruiting. Colin Simmons, defensive end, 5-star. 5-star Ryan Wingo. 5-star Brandon Baker at the offensive tackle position. 4-star Jarrett Gibson at the running back position. He was the number 2 ranked running back coming out. He was number 1 for a while and then get passed up. And then 4-star Xavier Filsaime from Remember him from Florida. He flipped to Texas a couple days before the National Signing Day. And then the transfer portal. Isaiah Bond, the number 1 ranked wide receiver. Amari Nyblack, the number 1 ranked tight end, both from Alabama. The number 4 defensive end in Trey Moore. The number 5 safety in Andrew Makuba. And the number 7 wide receiver in Matthew Golden. Obviously, I named key guys. There are so many more guys in the transfer and recruiting class like Kobe Black and the recruiting class who I think could have an impact this year at the cornerback position. And then Silas Bolden, who I think will get a decent amount of playing time at wide receiver in the transfer portal from Oregon State. He will also do a very good job in kick returns. So a couple of the battles that I will get to. Before I do that, hit that like button and subscribe while I take a sip of water. I really appreciate it, guys. So a couple battles that I think are going to be key to go into the spring and that are going to be decided in spring ball. Left guard battle. You have multiple guys here. Hayden Connor played most of his time at the Texas offensive line position. And the other spots, a lot of them are already taken. 3 out of the 5 spots I think are solid. You're going to get Kelvin Banks 100% at left tackle unless he gets hurt. You're going to get Jake Majors at center, who really started to play well at the end of the year. And I think he can kind of be the Christian Jones of this offensive line. This is a guy that, if he would have left, would have been a 6th, 7th round pick. With another year, another development, and if he tests well at the combine, he could be like Christian Jones. Christian Jones is going to be a 3rd round pick coming out at a right tackle position. I think Jake Majors at the center position, with all the experience, and if he tests well next year, could be a 3rd round pick in the NFL draft. And then, in my opinion, the guy that has the highest upside is Devon Campbell. He was the number 1 ranked offensive lineman coming out 2 years ago, and he's been pretty good. He was really good coming down the stretch last year as a run blocker. He needs to get a little bit better in pass protection, but run blocking, not an issue. Super athletic, super good guard, a guy that has, I think, just as much upside as Kelvin Banks does at left tackle as he does at the right guard position. So he will be our right guard. At the right tackle, and then let's go back. Right tackle, there will be a battle too, but let's go back to the left guard because that is the battle. So Hayden Connor played most of his time there. He's going to be in that battle. Another guy that's in the same class as Kelvin Banks, same class as Devon Campbell, Neto Umeozulu. God dang, I cannot get that name right ever. Another really high recruited guy, 4-star. He's got to show up, guys. We've seen Devon Campbell and Kelvin Banks come in and start in that class. He's the next guy. That would be pretty damn good, guys. If you have 6 or 7 guys out of the recruiting class and half of them start, that's a 50% hit rate. That's a very good job by this Texas staff. And I think you'll see even more guys in the future since they've been patient start as well. But let's see if Nato can take that next step and start at the left guard position. And then a guy that I really like that's played there a lot over the past 2.5 years is Cole Hudson. That's another guy out of that class. And so you have 2 guys out of that big class, 3 years ago, actually, between Kelvin Banks, Devon Campbell, Neto Umeozulu, and Cole Hudson. So 4 guys out of that 7-man class that was just one of the best classes ever at the offensive line position. 2 of them are competing for the left guard spot. Hayden Connor, we'll talk about him too. He's going to be competing at right tackle as well. I personally believe, just off the tape I've watched over the last couple of years, I think if Cole Hudson's healthy, he is the best option here, unless Nato, who I do believe has the highest upside of the group, gets a lot better. But I think Cole Hudson, with the tape he has, it being stay healthy, I think he's our left guard going into the season. So I think you have Kelvin Banks, Cole Hudson, Jake Majors, Devon Campbell, and then we might as well get to it. The right tackle position, it's going to be a battle between Cam Williams and Hayden Connor. Cam Williams, another guy out of that talented class 3 years ago. And if Cam Williams drops weight, he'll be our right tackle. I think Hayden Connor is the guy that's going to lose his spot out of this group. I think Cole Hudson is better, and I think if Nato performs to his recruiting standard, he'll be better than Hayden Connor too at the left guard spot. And then Hayden Connor will ultimately be battling for a position at the right tackle group with Cam Williams. Cam Williams is a freak. The guy is 6'7", 380 pounds. That's what he is. That is gigantic human being. And he's a fantastic run blocker already. Fantastic. He came in when Christian Jones was hurt in the Kansas State game and did a good job. I believe that was our highest rushing yards per game, or rush yards in a game this season. And he's a big reason why. He struggles in pass protection because he is overweight. He needs to lose 25 pounds, guys. Right now, I believe he's listed at 369. He needs to get down to 350 to 345. If he can do that, and the side-to-side movement is there, he's your right tackle, period. He's your right tackle. This guy, all he needs to do is lose weight. That's all I'm asking. Lose weight. And that can be hard for some guys. Some guys are lazy. Some guys' bodies, they just can't do it. So I'm hoping with him, summer conditioning, spring practice, that'll lose weight, and he'll be able to take that position over with Cam Williams. So, guys, think about that. We would have Kelvin Banks at left tackle, Cole Hudson at left guard, Jake Majors at center, Devon Campbell at right guard, and Cam Williams at right tackle. That's 4 guys out of the 7 that came in that class 3 years ago starting. That's a hell of a job by Kyle Flood. That's a hell of a job by Steve Sarkisian, finding guys, getting them on campus, and then getting them to play up to their potential if that does happen. I think you're going to see 3 of them start. I think the left guard position, honestly, is the one where Hayden Connor could win that job. But right tackle, I think Cam Williams wins that job. 19 pounds. You lose 19, you're going to be the starting right tackle. If you're 350, you will be the starting right tackle, Cam Williams. The next position group battle will stay on the offensive side of the ball, and we'll talk tight end. You lose Ja'Tavion Sanders, who was going to be a top, I think he'll be the second tight end off the board, maybe third now with the tight end from Penn State having a tremendous combine. But I think he's a second-round pick. I think he's going to be an underrated pick in this draft class now because I thought there was a chance he could be a first-round pick. His combine numbers weren't great. They were just average. So I think he'll drop to the second round, and I think someone will be getting a gem of a tight end, with Ja'Tavion Sanders leaving and going to the NFL. Gunnar Helm and Amari Niblack are the names you hear. Juan Davis, they have to have a plan for him because, guys, if Juan Davis was going to transfer and then talk back into it, you have to have a plan for the guy to get some playing time. So I expect him to play a little bit at least. But Amari Niblack and the Gunnar Helm is the battle you'll see for the one starting tight end. It's going to be interesting when they do decide to go with just one tight end set, who it's going to be. I think Steve Sarkisian loves 12 personnel, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. So I fully expect both of these guys to get a lot of playing time. I think first off, too, I think they complement each other beautifully. Amari Niblack, freak athlete, tall, lengthy, really good at contested catches and then running away from people. Gunnar Helm is that nice third down threat that we're going to be missing with Jordan Whittington gone, where he finds his own, catches it, gets 3 to 4 yards, and then he's tackled. So I think they complement each other very nicely. Gunnar Helm's also a little bit better of a blocker than Amari Niblack. So I think these guys, honestly, at the end of the season, it might be like 55-45 split times between the two at tight end. I think you'll see Juan Davis get some time there as well. But these are the 2 guys you need to hear about. And I ultimately think Gunnar Helm probably ends up with better stats than Amari Niblack. That's just a gut feeling. I have no instinct off of that. I think Amari Niblack's really good, and I think he'll still have a really good year. But I think, honestly, between these 2 guys, I think we're going to be able to keep up the production that Ja'Tavion Sanders had at Texas between the 2. I don't think one of them is going to have the year that Ja'Tavion Sanders did, but I think the 2 together can, and I think they'll get a decent amount of playing time between Amari Niblack and Gunnar Helm. Let's jump to the defensive side of the ball. So you lose Jalen Ford, and you're going to have to replace him. So these are the 5 guys that you're going to hear about: Anthony Hill, Maurice Blackwell, Leona Lafau, David Benda, and Kendrick Blackshire. Anthony Hill's going to play a lot. Anthony Hill's going to be a starter, so that's 1 spot down. For whatever reason, people are saying David Benda isn't going to play that much. I've been seeing that all over Texas Twitter. David Benda had his best year ever at Texas last year. If he keeps what he did last year, he's a starter, period, out of this group. I expect him to get better. I think he could be the best linebacker on the team, even above Anthony Hill, who I think is a freak. But I think Anthony Hill and David Bender are your two starters. I think Mo Blackwell, who I put on key breakout players last week, but again, I put a ceiling on that. I don't think the guy's going to get 100 tackles or anything. I think he's going to be used specifically to cover running backs, tight ends, and sometimes wide receivers. Leonard Lafau and Kendrick Blackshire are going to be battling for that third spot. Kendrick Blackshire from Alabama, transfer, great sideline to sideline player and great downhill player. I do not trust him agility wise to keep up with anyone other than a slow moving tight end in routes. Do not put him on a wide receiver if you're going to blitz, and do not put him on a running back. He will get toasted. I like him in running downs. Like if it's third and 1, put him in there. Third and 2, put him in there. First and 10, put him in there. Do not be putting him in on third and 11. That would be setting him up for failure. Do not do it. Leonard Lafau and Maurice Blackwell are the two guys to me that are going to be used to cover a tight end or running back. They're a lot more athletic. They're a lot smaller. I believe Leonard Lafau, redshirt freshman, 4-star recruit from last year's class, he's like 207 pounds. He is the prototypical guy you want out there to just cover running backs and tight ends. Same with Maurice Blackwell, smaller guy in the 220s. So I expect those two guys to rotate on passing downs, and I expect Kendrick Blackshire to be in on running downs. I think Anthony Hill and David Benda get the majority of the snaps here at the linebacker position. I think they'll rarely leave unless someone gets hurt. And honestly, the guys, this is the position ever since Steve Sarkisian's been here that we haven't had much depth at. Like we've had good starting players and Jalen Ford and then Anthony Hill last year with him, but the depth has never been there. Like no offense to Jet Bush, they finally put him at defensive end last year and let him rush the passer or outside linebacker, whatever you want to call it. He always was up on the line of scrimmage and rushing the passer. And he was way better at that. When he was just a pure linebacker, he was not good. We still need another guy, in my opinion, to step up here. It's going to be interesting if any freshmen come in and decide to step up or if we go in the transfer portal again. But I like 2 out of the 3 spots as David Bennett and Anthony Hill. The third one's going to be a question mark. I like Maurice Blackwell in that spot. We'll see what the coaching staff decide. They have gained my trust. They have hit on mostly everybody that I've seen they've gotten from the transfer portal the last 2 years, and they've done a phenomenal job in recruiting. So I look for Maurice Blackwell, Leonard Lafau, or Kendrick Blackshire to take over that third spot. I think it'll be Mo Blackwell, but I will trust them. The biggest missing pieces, in my opinion, on this team reside at this position, at the defensive tackle spot. That's why I think it's a big battle. You lose, in my opinion, it's not my opinion, it's fact, the best tandem of defensive tackles in the country. I think Byron Murphy, Tavondre Sweat, whatever order you want to put them in, they were 2 of the top 4 defensive tackles in the country, and no other team had 2 of the top 4 defensive tackles. I think Michigan had with Mason Graham, he was definitely one of the 4 or 5. Kenneth Grant wasn't one of the 4 or 5. He's like one of the 10 or 12. So that's why I think we're better up the middle than they were. And the run stats prove that as well, game to game and down to down. It's going to be hard. You're losing an Outland Trophy winner, which never goes to defensive linemen. That's how good Tavondre Sweat was. And then we're losing Byron Murphy, who's going to be a first-round pick, probably a top 15 pick. Tested amazingly. The stats back it up. The eye test backs it up. Everything goes along with him. So it's going to be hard. Alfred Collins is going to get one of those spots. Alfred Collins is one of those guys who's been talked about since the Tom Herman era. Physical freak. This guy, if he went to the combine, would be the highest testing defensive tackle, and I don't think it'd be close for his size. 6'5", 255, 260. Bigger than that, 260, 270. He's a physical freak. Chris Ash, guys, when he was here, has coached the Bosa brothers, coached Chase Young, said Alfred Collins is just as talented as those guys. The problem is with Alfred Collins, he does not play like that from a down-to-down basis, especially in the games. Apparently in practice, the guy's a big practice player because that's all you hear in spring camp and summer workouts is this guy's a freak. This guy should be the best player on the defense, and it never turns out to be that way. You'll see flashes, but they're few and far between. He needs to get more consistent. If this guy gets consistent, it's the same thing that we talked about with Tavondre Sweat last year. Alfred Collins has a higher upside than Tavondre Sweat. He does. Will he be consistent enough? I don't think he has a higher upside than Byron Murphy because I think Byron Murphy might be the closest thing to Aaron Donald since Aaron Donald. So I'm not going to go that far. But Alfred Collins has the chance to do what Tavondre Sweat did. He has that chance to take that jump. So I think he'll be in no matter what, even if he just kept up what he did last year. He's one of our defensive tackles next year. Then you go with Jere Bledsoe, a physical freak that I talked about last week, a guy that's breakdancing at 270 pounds in the locker room. The only issue with him, he has the opposite of Cam Williams at the right tackle position. Jere Bledsoe needs to put on weight. If Jere Bledsoe puts on weight, no issue. He will be probably the second guy right behind Alfred Collins with the most snaps at defensive tackle. And then you have Vernon Broughton, Aaron Bryant, and Sadir Mitchell. I think the one guy of those three is Sadir Mitchell. He's a high four-star prospect that Georgia was coveting a couple years ago coming out of high school. I think he has a lot of upside. Jere Bledsoe and Sadir Mitchell are the two guys behind Alfred Collins with the most upside. I honestly think, though, you probably only get one of them to hit this year. And then I think you're going to see Vernon Broughton get the third most snaps. I think you're going to have Alfred Collins and then Jere Bledsoe or Sadir Mitchell, and then you'll have Vernon Broughton, and then that fourth guy will be Sadir Mitchell or Jere Bledsoe, because like I said, I think only one of them hits. I think Aaron Bryant's a nice player, but I don't see him starting. He was okay last year. He wasn't great to me. So I think your two guys starting next year will probably be Alfred Collins for sure, and then probably Jere Bledsoe. So those are the two guys that I look to see in camp. Hopefully I'm wrong and Sadir Mitchell surprises me even more, and hopefully Aaron Bryant surprises me even more. I don't really see much for Vernon Broughton. He's been here a while. I don't see a big jump coming. I could be completely wrong, and I hope I am wrong, but I just don't see it coming. And the last battle we will be talking about, safety. This was a gigantic bugaboo last year. You had Jaron Thompson, Michael Taff, Derek Williams rotating all last year, and they struggled. They struggled bad in coverage. Michael Taff is a good player when, like I said, if he's like a roaming type player. Like if a ball's thrown and he has to go over there and make a tackle, or a ball's tipped up and he has to go over there and pick it off, I trust him. If he's in coverage, you're in trouble. Derek Williams was a freshman last year. He was our best guy in coverage. I would expect the same this year. I think he starts, and I don't think it's any close, honestly. And then he's got one of those safety positions down. Xavier Filsaime coming in as a freshman, Michael Taff, and then Andrew Makuba coming over from Clemson. He played nickel back there, played safety sometimes. He's better at safety. I expect Jahdae Barron to play mostly nickel along with Jalen Gilbo. I think you'll see Jahdae Barron, who did come back and was huge. That's a big key to this. Will switch out to outside at some point. I think you're going to see a lot more athletic secondary. You're going to see a lot more versatile secondary, because I think you're going to see Derek Williams, Michael Taff, Andrew Makuba, and Jalen Gilbo all play nickelback at some point. And I think you'll see 3 out of the 4 of them play safety. I think you'll see Jahdae Barron back there sometimes. I think you'll see Derek Williams back there most of the time. And I think you see Andrew Makuba back there most of the time. Jalen Gilbo is a nickelback. He's too big to play safety. I don't see him playing back there. To me, I think Michael Taff is the one that gets like filtered out of this process over the season. I think he plays a decent amount early on, but I think Xavier Filsaime, when he gets up to par on the playbook and confidence level, you're going to see him start to phase out Michael Taff's reps. But I like the safety room. Like I said, Xavier Filsaime, Michael Taff, Derek Williams, and Andrew Makuba. You rotate those 4 guys. I really like that. And then you have Malik Muhammad coming in for his sophomore season at the cornerback position, along with Terrence Brooks, Gavin Holmes, Kobe Black, Jalen Gilbo, Jahdae Barron at those positions. The secondary will be the key to this team next year, guys. I believe they will be the best group on the defensive side of the ball. I think you'll have them. I think you'll have the front 4, especially the edges, with Ethan Burke, Trey Moore, and company at the edge position, keeping that strong. Baron Sorrell as well. And then I think the interior and the middle linebacker position will be the weakest. I like our outside linebackers. I just don't know if I can trust Anthony Hill if he's going to take over that middle linebacker position, because that is a lot to take on, especially now, guys. We have helmet communication. Like, he's got to be the quarterback of the defense. Is he able to take that on? If he's able to take that on, he can be just as good as Jalen Ford was last year, because Jalen Ford did have a down year for Jalen Ford standards, but we'll see if he can do that. Overall, I think this defense stays about the same overall. I think it gets better in the back end, a little bit worse up front, especially run against the run. But I think they'll be able to stop the pass better. And honestly, I'd rather stop the pass, because guess what? Teams, honestly, other than Michigan last year, don't really like to pound the rock like they used to. So I'd rather be better on the back end than the front, especially because guess what? I think the edges will be better. So you can get more pressure, and they're going to be throwing into the best part of your defense. So as we saw, Washington was able to carve that up in the playoff. A lot of that has to do with, though, Michael Penix had an all-time performance. Go back and watch that tape. It is, in my opinion, the best performance of the last 10 years in college football throwing the ball. Like, Texas guys were in position. They just didn't get their hands around or their head around quick enough and didn't make enough plays on the ball. But those balls were delivered perfectly. And he did the total opposite versus Michigan. He played a terrible game, but I expect the secondary to be much more athletic and much better at playing the ball. And I think that will help out. And I expect the offense to be fantastic. I really didn't speak about the wide receivers, guys, because I don't think there's a need to speak about the wide receivers. I think last year we saw A.D. Mitchell and Xavier Worthy bring up Quinn Ewers. I think the key this year is going to be Quinn Ewers bringing up those guys. At some point, Quinn, you're going to have to play to that perfect rating you got out of high school. You're going to have to do it. And I know there's questions going on about Quinn, and I think some of them are fair. I think others are not. He's still a good quarterback. He just needs to take that next step for this team to win a national championship next year, which that could possibly happen. Quinn Ewers has to be closer to Joe Burrow of 2019 than he was of Quinn Ewers of 2023. He's just going to have to do that. I'm not saying he has to put up Joe Burrow numbers. I'm saying if you can give me 85 to 90% of those stats, we can win the national championship. This team is talented enough to do it. Isaiah Bond, Matthew Golden, Silas Bolden, Ryan Wingo, Ryan Niblett, DeAndre Moore, Jonte Cook, who's getting slept on, and who every guy at the combine for Texas talked about. I expect him to have a great year. This wide receiver room is deeper than it has been in over a decade. Yes, we just had 2 first-round picks at the wide receiver position, or going to have 2 first-round picks at the wide receiver position, at worst 2 top 40 picks. This room is deeper this year than it was last year. The top-end talent probably isn't there. Guess what, Quinn? That is your job to elevate the wide receivers this year. I said that as soon as the season ended. Last year was the season of tight end and wide receivers elevating Quinn. It is Quinn's job to elevate that tight end and wide receiver room, because that tight end and wide receiver room is still a B+ on both ends. Last year, they were probably an A or A-, and Quinn was probably about a B-. Quinn's going to have to be the A to A- this year, and if he's that, this team can win a national championship. So that has been my spring preview. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you, Jackson, for being here. Hit that like button and subscribe. This has been the last edition of the Bleeding Burnt Orange Show, because we are moving to Monday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time with a name change. Starting in April, Mark will be joining us as well. So hit that like button, subscribe. I appreciate you guys. Hook 'em, guys. And spring ball is right around the corner.